Hey guys, REDyTay here with another Pokemon challenge. Beating LeafGreen with just a Grimer had a rough start, got a little easier in the middle, and then ramped up difficulty again towards the end. That was mostly due to our lackluster stats and Grimer's solo poison typing. This next challenge might follow a similar trajectory because of the stats again, but this time we've got a typing that I think is way more beneficial. Today we're going to see if we can beat Pokemon Ruby with a single Spoink. Since I've already brought it up, let's talk about stats. Spoink's stats are basically on par with a first stage starter, which definitely isn't great, but hey, there are worse options out there. Its HP, special attack, special defense, and speed are decent, which gives us a bit of an edge, but its physical attack and defense are rough. Honestly, it's a complete 180 from our last challenge where Grimer had solid physical stats but struggled on the special side. And I'm just gonna say it, I like psychic types way more than poison types, but even with that advantage, this type brings its own issues as we move through the game. The big one that concerns me? Dark types. There are a lot of them in Ruby, including an Elite Four member who specializes in them. Now let's talk about Spoink's moveset. Honestly, I didn't see this coming when I started the challenge, but Spoink begins the game with only one move, Splash. Yep, just Splash. And when we do learn an attack, it's Psywave. If you see my Mr. Fish run, you already know, Psywave sucks. It's unpredictable and underwhelming, but thankfully, better moves are on the horizon. Also, I think this might be the first time I've actually seen balance available in a run like this. I might actually give that move a shot. And we got a pretty decent TM list too. Still no perfect answer for dark types, but I'm liking the options we have here. Anyway, we need to get going if we want to make progress in getting rid of Splash. But first, the rules. I can only use Spoink throughout the entire challenge. I'm allowed to use other Pokemon for HM purposes so we can still get around however. No glitches or hacks to advance, and keeping with the trend, I won't be using any items in battle, just held items that were given to Spoink before the fight. So let's get started. So right off the bat, I learned something new. As most of you know, these games start out with us saving Professor Birch from a wild Poochyena by borrowing a starter Pokemon to fight it off. But since we're using Spoink, who only knows Splash, we literally can't do anything in this battle, and the only way to do damage is to stay in long enough to use up all 40 power points of Splash and start dealing damage with Struggle. The issue? Well, Poochyena is level 2 and only knows Tackle, so it does attack every turn. No Growl, no Leer, no stalling, just straight damage every time. At first I thought this challenge was doomed from the very beginning. The only possible way to win was by using the one potion you can grab from your PC at the start of the game. But just when we were down to 2 HP, something unexpected happened. Poochyena fled. We technically won that battle. I had no idea that was even a mechanic of this game, but I'm so glad that it is. That's one hurdle cleared, and we haven't even really started yet. I've never spent so much time talking about the beginning Poochyena battle, and I sincerely hope I never have to again. But now, we finally have our Spoink. It took me a while to settle on a nickname, but I ultimately went with Kevy B, and that's pretty obvious when you see me writing out the... It took me a while to settle on a nickname, but I ultimately went with Kevy B, and it's pretty obvious when you see how long it took for me to type that out. Kevy B's ability is Thick Fat, which gives it resistance to fire and ice type attacks, and that's actually pretty solid. I honestly couldn't decide which ability I preferred for this run. The alternative is Own Tempo, which would have made us immune to confusion. That's also super helpful, but hey, Thick Fat works too. I just really want to get going on this challenge. As for our nature, Kevy B is Lonely, which boosts attack and lowers defense, which is our two worst stats. Ideally, I'd prefer a defense boost instead, but since I plan to use some physical moves later on, I'll take this. Not ideal, but not the end of the world either. So now we're officially diving into the challenge. First up is the rival battle, but I'm definitely not jumping into that yet because we'd lose instantly. Instead, we need to grind to level 7 so we can learn the terrible but usable Psywave. In a perfect world, we'd find a bunch of wild Pokemon that can't hurt us while we waste our Splash power points without taking damage. In Ruby, that would mean targeting Silcoon and Cascoon, but unfortunately they're not available on the routes we can access at this point. So we're stuck facing whatever wild Pokemon we come across, wasting splashes until we run out of our power points. Yeah, it's tedious, but it's the only shot we got. Before getting too deep into it, I spend most of our limited money on potions since going to the Pokemon Center would replenish our Splash power points and we do not want that. Eventually we run out of Splash and start using Struggle, which surprisingly gets us experience faster than I expected. At level 6 I got impatient and decided to take on the rival by just using Struggle. There's really not much to narrate here, it's just us spamming Struggle over and over, but I'm going to be honest, we only won because of a lucky critical hit. The winning Struggle left us with 1 HP. That was way too close. Thankfully, we won't have to rely on that strategy for much longer. And hey, at least this isn't as brutal as the struggle period during the Abra challenge, so I can't complain too much. After getting the running shoes and heading towards Petalburg, we finally defeat enough wild Pokemon to hit level 7, which means we now have Psywave. And just like that, we enter the Mystery Vest portion of the challenge. Now, I was going to explain how Psywave is trash because it deals random damage between the user's level and 1.5 times the user's level, but in Generation 3 it's actually even more complicated than that. Just take a look at the formula on the screen because I'm not going to get into all that. All you need to know is Psywave is super unreliable. In fact, you can literally roll 1 damage with this move. So yeah, it's random, it's inconsistent, and it kinda sucks. But it's also the only damaging move we got, so we're using it. That being said, we're still in trouble if our opponent is a Dark type, since Psywave won't touch them. Normally, I love that this generation introduces Dark types early on, but in this case, it's a major obstacle. That problem hits fast when we fight our first Team Magma Grunt, who sends out, you guessed it, Poochyena. Since it's immune to Psywave, we're back to using Struggle, but this time it's even worse than before because we now know Odor Sleuth, which means we have to burn through those power points too before we can go back to struggling. If you haven't done the math, that's 95 turns before Struggle becomes usable. Yeah, this is painfully tedious. I cannot wait until we finally get a non-psychic damaging move. We managed to get the win, but immediately run into another wall, an unavoidable battle we need to get through to progress. This trader has an Incada, and it easily chips away at us with Leech Life, while Struggle doesn't hit hard enough to knock it out quickly. So we heal up, going again, and thankfully Psywave manages to get the job done this time. We battle a few trainers, and by the time we reach Rustboro, I decide to give Roxanne a try. Fortunately, we are nowhere near ready for the battle. I only give it 1 attempt, but it's obvious we're not going to win right now. Psywave is too random and unreliable, and our defense is way too weak to withstand all the physical attacks. Thankfully, we learned Psybeam in a couple levels, and that could be our ticket to victory. Sure, our defense won't improve much in 2 levels, but we'll hopefully be faster and hit harder, and maybe that's all we need. Oh yeah, Psybeam is helping out a lot here. The first one almost one-shots Geodude, and since it just goes for Defense Curl, we're able to take it out in the next turn. Roxanne does use a potion, but it doesn't heal Geodude enough to survive another Psybeam. Nosepass takes Psybeam a bit better and hits us with Rock Tomb, lowering our speed. Still, we're outpacing it in terms of damage output. The problem is Roxanne uses another potion. It doesn't fully heal Nosepass either, but now its HP is about the same as Kevy B's, so we could still lose here, especially since Nosepass is faster now. Its Rock Throw puts us in the red, but luckily 1 more Psybeam is enough for us to get the win. Now that we've got Psybeam, we have a solid Psychic move, but obviously that doesn't mean the rest of the early game is smooth sailing. In fact, we have to fight another Team Magma Grunt if we want to move forward in the story. And of course, he's also got a Poochyena. That means more struggling. Literally. It's still a pain to burn all of our power points just to unlock Struggle, but now that we're at a higher level, we get the win pretty easily without taking too much recoil damage. With that part done, we can move to Dewford, which means we're going for another gym badge. It's the fighting type gym, so this should be the easiest part of the game for us so far. Actually, it might just be the easiest part of the whole game. And yeah, the battle is so easy and uneventful that I'm probably just showing the footage while I talk over it. There's not much to commentate. Psybeam is just too strong here. Moving on, our next challenge is another rival battle, but this one goes pretty smoothly too. Not quite as easily as the Brawly fight, but still nothing too stressful. Shroomish survives a Psybeam and paralyzes us, but we take it out in the next turn. Numel just spams Tackle, which doesn't even come close to the damage we're dishing out with Psybeam. We do lose a few turns to Paralysis, but we're still in the green by the time Numel goes down. That just leaves Marshtomp, which starts its part of the battle by setting up Bide. Honestly, I probably should have stalled it out to avoid taking damage, but I decided to keep spamming Psybeam. We get super lucky with a critical hit on the last Psybeam. Without that, we probably would have lost since Marshtomp's Bide would have been unleashed on the next turn. I'm pretty sure it would have been strong enough to knock us out, even if we weren't at half health. But hey, we actually beat our rival here on the first try, which is not something I think we could say about the last few Ruby and Sapphire challenges we've done. But just like those previous runs, Watson is still going to be a problem, mainly because of Magneton. I don't think the rest of his team is all that scary outside of getting paralyzed by them. I really don't know why they made Steel types resist Psychic, but they did, and that's our problem now. And to make things worse, I just discovered that Kevy B can't learn Rock Smash, so there goes our tried and true method for getting past Watson. Well, guess we don't have much of a choice but to face him at our current level and see how bad things really are. Yeah, the win isn't happening here, but of course, we're not surprised. It also doesn't help that I forgot to give Kevy B a Cherry Berry before the battle, so we can't shrug off paralysis this time. But honestly, even with it, I still don't think we'd stand a chance. I gave this battle multiple attempts, and surprisingly, the issue isn't even Magneton or the Steel typing, it's actually Voltorb. Self-destruct keeps taking us out in a bunch of these runs. So yeah, we're going to need a lot more offensive power to take down the Steel types and a lot more defense to survive self-destruct. Time to grind. But to what level? Well, grinding took an unexpected turn. Kevy B levels up pretty quickly thanks to all the available trainers around here, and it doesn't take long before we learn a new move I totally forgot was even in our move pool. At level 28, Kevy V learns Magic Coat, and I'll be real with you, I don't think I've ever actually used this move before. I had to look up what it even does because I thought it was something like Mirror Coat. But no, Magic Coat reflects status moves back at our opponent, and honestly, this could not have come at a better time. Watson just got a lot more interesting. We head back into the battle at level 30, and right out of the gate, we try out our new toy, Magic Coat. And it immediately pays off. Magnemite opens with Thunder Wave, and it gets reflected right back. Now it's paralyzed, and we're totally status free. To make things worse for Magnemite, we follow up with Confuse Ray, and it hits itself in confusion. Psybeam lands hard, and even though Magnemite gets another Thunder Wave off in the next turn, we've got a Cherry Berry this time. We shake off the paralysis and take it out with another Psybeam. Next up is Voltorb, and we know what to do. Psybeam one-shots it. That's a huge relief. We're not paralyzed, we're still at full health, and now it's just Magneton left. We go for Magic Coat again, and again it reflects a Thunder Wave right back at Magneton. That's 2 for 2. Then we confuse it, and now Magneton is both paralyzed and confused. Psybeam starts chipping away, but Magneton is a lot bulkier than Magnemite. Thankfully, confusion damage helps stack on the pressure. Psybeam isn't hitting super hard, but we're still making solid progress. Magneton keeps hurting itself in confusion, and we just keep spamming Psybeam. Before you know it, it's already in the red, and we're still in the green. That's when Watson pulls out a Super Potion and nearly brings it back to full health. No problem, we stick to our plan. Psybeam over and over. Magneton eventually snaps out confusion, but on that same turn, it's too paralyzed to move. I cannot believe the luck we're having. We get Magneton back to red health, and it finally gets the chance to attack. Well, not quite. He uses Thunder Wave again, finally paralyzing us. I honestly didn't think we'd make it this far, not paralyzed. And somehow Watson still has another Super Potion. That did catch me off guard. Even so, we just keep using Psybeam and reapply Confuse Ray. We still need that extra damage from confusion, but really, we're far outpacing Magneton when it comes to damage output, and incredibly, we actually win this battle without taking any damage. Watson was so focused on paralyzing us that he never got around to actually attacking, and thanks to Magic Coat, we turned his entire strategy against him. Well, that was definitely my favorite Watson battle I've ever done. We've got some solid momentum now, especially since that major hurdle didn't slow us down nearly as much as it usually does. I really wanted to head straight to Flannery to keep the battle run rolling, but the storyline forces us to fight Maxie first. That means we got a Mightyena to worry about. But don't worry, we have a plan for handling dark types now. It's not a great plan, but hey, it works. Mightyena has Intimidate, but thankfully that doesn't matter in this challenge since Kevy B is, well for right now, 100% a special attacker. The real trick here is that we just beat Watson, which means we got the TM for Shockwave. And wouldn't you know it, Kevy B can actually learn that move. So yeah, we finally have a move that can hit dark types. You know, when I was younger, I always thought electric moves should have been super effective against dark types. I mean, light bulbs and lightning, it just feels like light should beat dark. If that logic followed, I guess fire would be strong too, but I digress. Shockwave brings Mightyena into the yellow, and its bite is doing surprisingly little. I mean, it's super effective, and that's it. A second Shockwave finishes the job, taking down the one major threat in this fight. Golbat doesn't stand a chance against Psybeam, and Camera Ups goes down after 2 rounds of it. Also, I did pause for a bit to consider learning Rest and Snore, but I ultimately decided against it. Kevy B is such a low HP Pokemon that going to sleep for 2 turns to recover just isn't a safe bet. We can't take many hits, and those turns could cost us the battle. Anyway, Flannery time. I was super curious to see how this would go. We're not resistant to fire type moves, but our ability, Thick Fat, does reduce fire damage, so in a way, we kinda are. I just didn't know how much of it would actually help. Also, we now know Psychic, so yeah, we're feeling powerful at this point of the game. Our level lead helps out a lot too. The Slugmas are obviously one-shots, so it's just Torkoal that's left. It's bulky enough to survive Psychic, and I really hate Attract. It immobilized us for 1 turn. But on the next one, we land another Psychic, and that wraps up the battle quick. Funny enough, we didn't even get hit by a fire move. Torkoal only used Body Slam, so we don't really get to see how our ability works out after all. But hey, the badge run is going strong, so let's keep at it. Well, it was fun while it lasted. Our dad is actually beating us here. It took a couple of attempts to come up with the idea of using Magic Coat to reflect Slacking's yawn back onto itself, but even with that trick working in our favor, we are still getting owned by Facade. At least we're hanging on until the last Slacking, so a win feels possible. It's just a little out of reach. We're sitting at level 39 at this point, and I'm honestly surprised that this is the gym we're struggling with. We tried again at a flat level 40, but yeah, we still lost. So it's time to grind if we really actually want to win this thing. We hit the desert and we start battling trainers and wild Pokemon. With that, we grind up to level 43. Not a huge jump, unintended, but we do learn our last move on our moveset, Bounce. I'm going to be honest, I feel like this is the first time I've ever heard of this move. Maybe I knew it as a kid, but this is definitely the first time I actually used it. It's basically Fly, a 2-turn move where you dodge your opponent's attack on the first turn, and then you attack on the second one. Bounce though has worse accuracy, but it does come with the chance to paralyze your opponent. And honestly, I'm really interested in using this move for this challenge. It's new, it's Fly type, so some extra type coverage, and the chance to dodge a hit or 2 is huge when you're as fragile as we are. Plus that paralysis chance is a big deal considering how little punishment Kevy B can actually take in these fights. But this move is not quite living up to the hype. For starters, it only has 5 power points, and to add insult to injury, for a move that has 85% accuracy, it seems to miss more than 15% of the time. Also, in the brief time we used this move before having it rematched with our dad, we never once got a paralysis to land. So with all that said, it might not come as a surprise that we didn't instantly beat Norman with that move, but I still think we are really close to win. I mean, we're always making it to the last Slacking, we just can't withstand Facade at that point. I'm surprised how badly we handle that attack. Slacking doesn't even have a status condition tacked on for it to do more damage. Eventually though, the game gives us a chance to get the win. We grind up a little bit, so that helps. Level 45, and opening this battle with Bounce means we dodge a yawn, but we miss our own attack. See what I mean? Also, good to know we would have been safe using Magic Coat on that previous turn. Psyking lows around on the next turn, and we cut to the chase and hit him with a Psychic. It does a lot of damage, but Slacking is still in the yellow after the hit. But hey, a special drop is always nice. Slacking then almost takes us to half health with Facade, but we knock it out right after with another Psychic. We stick with that move when Vigoroth shows up, and I'm so glad that we did, considering it gets one shot with a critical hit. We're still in the green, but we're in a very tight spot considering this final Slacking's Facade has been ending these battles for us. So we're just using Bounce to dodge the attacks. Clearly there's a reason we're using that move, because the damage output here is very lacking. But we stick with it and we're slowly but steadily tacking on damage. We also get some good luck here with Bounce finally paralyzing Slacking. I think it's the first time that has happened in this challenge. With that new status condition, Facade will for sure end us, but we've done a lot of damage to Slacking. So we switch to Sidekick, which easily wraps up this battle with a win in our column for once. Geez, I feel like we're going to have other scarier obstacles coming up in this challenge, but for now, Slacking almost feels thumbnail worthy. Now that we have the 5th gym badge, the map for the rest of the game really opens up, and we're booking it to Fortress City to make up for lost time. But that doesn't mean we're skipping trainers. I'm really starting to worry that Kevy B is going to need to be at an extremely high level if we want to win this challenge, and I want to battle anyone that can give us experience. I think we really need to start addressing our flaws now and not in some hectic frenzy at the end of the game. The routes heading to Fortree City, the Weather Institute, and the battle with our rival here are all great sources of experience, so we're making great progress at this point in the game. No one has given us any trouble here, and that includes the Team Magma Grunts, so we kicked them out of the Weather Institute in no time. And our rival? Well, it would have been nice if our opening bounce didn't miss, and since it did, we did get leech seeded instead of one-shotting Shroomish. Sidekick takes it out though. It does the same thing to Numel, and the same could almost be said when it comes to Marshtomp. Just like in my last challenge, I couldn't see any health in that health bar, but Marshtomp is still standing, so apparently it's not a one-shot. I can see some red health on the next turn thanks to our opponent healing Marshtomp up a bit, but by that point it doesn't really matter since there's no way we lose the battle thanks to one more sidekick. The one thing I really love about our stats are our special stats. They look great, but with that comes the flip side, and our physical, attack, and defense are abysmal. At least our speed and health are decent given our circumstances. It could be better, but they're not bad. Okay, Winona is next up for the badge run, and this could be interesting. We have Shockwave, which is super effective against her flying types, but it's not Stab, and it's not the strongest electric move, so this isn't going to be a complete cakewalk. First out is Swellow, and it's faster than us despite being 20 levels lower. It wastes a turn using Double Team, and Shockwave doesn't miss, so that's our move for this turn. It's a one shot, so we're starting this battle off strong. Pelipper is annoying with it using Protect, but once we actually get a move to land, it's no surprise that it can't handle Shockwave, since it's 4 times weak to it. Skarmory could be scary if we didn't have Shockwave, since its Steel typing helps it resist our Psychic moves, but Shockwave one-shots it too. Altaria is the last Pokemon on Winona's team, and this one actually withstands Shockwave. He uses Dragon Dance at the start. Shockwave is good for a couple turns, but we need to hit harder since Altaria is sporting a raised attack stat. Case in point, her Earthquake takes Kevy B down to 21 health. Sure, that was a critical hit, but still. So we switch gears with Sidekick, which deals enough to safely give us the win. It's nice to make some progress after the hang-up we had at the previous gym, so let's not lose this momentum. We hightail it to Moss Deep, and we have our last battle with our rival in this game. But I'm not sure why I'm even sharing this battle. I accidentally had the speed up turned on in my emulator, but even if it wasn't on, this would have been a really quick and easy battle for us. Moving on, we backtrack to Mount Pyre and deal with Team Magma there. Once that's taken care of, we take a detour through the other floors to get the TM for Shadow Ball. I'm not sure we necessarily need this move, but it could be useful in battles like the one with Tate and Liza that we have coming up. So we're going to keep this in our back pocket for now. Besides, we have to deal with all that other Team Magma fluff to advance through the storyline. It's not rough in this challenge, and we clear through it pretty easily. It's just that part of this game's storyline always feels like it's slowing down our progress. But hey, we did get some experience to level up, so we're moving on. And that means Tay and Liza. We have a Magikarp placeholder, and we're trying to see if we can still get a win despite their team being able to resist our Psychic moves. And Psychic is underperforming, but it still looks possibly doable. But things start to nosedive. Lunatone puts Kevy B to sleep with Hypnosis, and from there we give up a lot of turns due to being asleep. When we wake up, we're at half health and immediately try to catch up by hitting with Shockwave. It's not doing the best, maybe even worse than what Sidekick did. Things continue to not go our way as Solrock hits us with a flamethrower that also tacks on a burn. Lunatone uses one more Sidekick, which we withstand, but the burn damage is enough to take us down soon after. Okay, let's try Shadow Ball. I was going back and forth on which move to get rid of so we can have this move, and I ultimately decided on Magic Coat. It's a bummer since it is a cool move that could have had a lot of potential in this run, but at the same time we haven't really used it in a while, so we probably won't miss it. Besides, things are looking better with our new move. Now, it's not one-shotting, but it's dealing considerably more damage than anything we threw at Tay and Liza in the previous battle. Of course, getting put back to sleep by Lunatone is annoying, but the sidekicks Solrock and Lunatone are attacking us with aren't doing much, so by the time we wake up, we're looking better than we did in the last battle. To make things even better, the Shadow Ball we threw once we woke up knocks Lunatone out of the battle. Now we just need to focus on the full health Solrock. It's still sticking with Sidekick, and our Shadow Ball is packing more of a punch than that move. After a couple of Shadow Balls for Solrock, we get another win, which means we just have to get one more badge to get to the Elite Four. But before heading out to complete more of that storyline, I take a detour to get half of the pieces needed to make a Shell Bell. Yeah, Kevy B might not have the best health, but free healing is free healing, and like I mentioned earlier, we need all the help we can get. So while we're waiting for the tide to change so we can get the other half of the pieces for the shell bell, we go ahead and have another battle with Maxie. Shockwave is our opening move against Mantine. It's not a one shot, but Swagger misses and Maxie then uses a super potion. So we stick with our Shockwave to take it out. Shockwave would have been a good move against Crobat too, but we switched to Sidekick, which works out just as well, considering it one shots Crobat. Camerupt is last and Sidekick is still our move of choice. It doesn't one shot though, and things could get a little interesting since Camerupt uses an Amnesia on the next turn. Maxie then uses another potion, so Camerupt is just a little above half health. With that and the Amnesia, it survives another Sidekick. But don't worry, it's now in red health, so we stick with our main move and easily win from there. Wow, we actually took no damage in that battle. I don't think we'll pull that off in the upcoming Wallace fight, but I still think we have good chances for the win thanks to Shockwave. Let's dive in, unintended again, and see if we're ready to wrap up the badge run. Okay, I was actually wrong here. This battle took several tries before we got the win. The main problem is we're at the point of the game where it's extremely obvious that our team is just one weak unevolved Pokemon that has to defeat an almost full team of evolved Pokemon. KVP could beat any of these Pokemon if it was one-on-one, but we're losing because it's hard to withstand battling this whole team in one go. We had an instance where we got paralyzed by Celio's Body Slam, confused multiple times by Water Pulse, and sometimes took critical hit Earthquakes from Whiscash that we just couldn't bounce back from. In most of these instances, we got to Melodic, but we were just too beat up to actually come out on top. Well, what would really help us is some extra healing. Maybe enough time has passed for the tides to change in Shoal Cave so we can get the rest of the pieces for that shell bell. So it was smart that I checked because the tide did change. Before you know it, we had the shell bell made and immediately give it to KVP. This add-on made all the difference. Love Disc is easy to take down with Shockwave, but that's old news. Whiscash is immune to Shockwave, which is also old news, but we have Psychic as a solid alternative to do damage. It's still hanging on in the red, and just like the battle we just had with Maxie's Camerupt, that Amnesia it just used could make the battle a little more interesting. Especially because I correctly predicted that there would be a heal up on the following turn. Still sticking with Psychic though, and it comes close to bringing Whiscash to half health. The good news is it brings a special defense drop on that turn, which is very helpful. We go for Psychic again, and with that drop we're able to knock Whiscash out for good. We're now at level 63 and facing Celio. Well, Psychic makes really short work of it, which is good for shadowing for later. Seaking is up next, and Psychic is still going strong. Seaking survives, uses a Rain Dance, and then gets healed up with a Hyper Potion. Another Psychic brings it back to low red health. It gets a chance to attack with Water Pulse, which of course confuses us. Luckily though, we're still able to attack this turn. A Shockwave from us brings us to the last member of Wallace's team, Melodic. I like where we're at health-wise, but I'm not liking the fact that we are confused. We do get an attack off on the first turn in the form of Sidekick. I was hoping for more damage than that, but I'll take it. It's far better than the alternative. Melodic responds with a lackluster Water Pulse, and then some luck really swings in our favor. On the next turn, we snap out of confusion, and our Psychic lands a critical hit, meaning we finally get the win. Now I'm sure we would have still won even if we didn't get the finishing blow on that turn, but after all the close chances we had of winning this battle earlier, it's nice to finally have the pendulum swing our way for an easier win. One big takeaway from this battle though is that our Psychic carried us here. Shockwave is a good move and it is really useful in this battle, but I think we're hitting a little harder with Psychic despite the fact it's not a super effective move in these instances. I think that's all because it's stab in this challenge. It's good we notice things like this because we need all the pointers and help we can get when it comes to this last leg of the challenge. I knew this challenge was going to be an extremely difficult one, but it wasn't until we were halfway through the badge run that it truly dawned on me what we were actually dealing with when it comes to the Elite Four, especially the first half. I never really thought about it, but this Elite Four group is a solid brick wall for Psychic types right at the front. We have Sydney and his Dark types followed by Phoebe and her Ghost types. We can't use Psychic at all in the first battle, and both of these teams have moves that are super effective against KVP. This is why I was so focused on battling everyone we saw in the second portion of the game. We are very likely to need a significant level lead if we want to even come close to winning these battles. The second half of the Elite Four shouldn't be too bad, especially if we have to do a lot of grinding to beat the first two members. I'm hoping Glacia and Drake will just go down to brute strength when we get to them. I am stressing all this, and things are starting to look even worse for us as we get to the end of Victory Road, and that's all because it actually took several attempts to beat Wally. Losing to him here is always a reality check that reminds you that you're in for a grueling and exhausting endgame. Really, the only problem we have when it comes to facing this team is Magneton. Well, and Gardevoir, but that's because we're too beat up from fighting Magneton that it was hard to hang on and beat Gardevoir. It also does help that Magneton had instances where it burned us with Tri-Attack. Again, Kevy B just doesn't have the health to hang around long in a battle if he has a status condition hanging over his head. Third attempt does go our way though. Altaria is out first for Wally, and Psychic is great here. Altaria is playing the long game by opening with Dragon Dance. This isn't going to be a long game for Altaria though, as we knock it out on the next turn despite the Super Potion Wally gives it before our Psychic. Delcatty is next, but this has been a one-shot with Psychic in every attempt. The menace of this whole battle, Magneton, is now out. We fight fire with fire by using our own electric move on it. Shockwave doesn't do much, but with Magneton steel typing, it's the best move we got. With that said, we are ahead of it when it comes to damage output thanks to our special defense handling Thunderbolt pretty well. Well, I say that, then we get hit by a critical hit Thunderbolt, so never mind. We have to stick with Shockwave though, and that one was really close to knocking Magneton out. Now we're both in red health. This looks like another loss honestly. We do take Magneton out of the picture with one more Shockwave, but how do we deal with Gardevoir? Well, it helps that we can easily one-shot Roselia, it's part poison, and we have Psychic, so that part of the battle is real easy and it gives us some healing thanks to the Shell Bell. So that's nice. But it's not like we're in the green or anything. We heal up and level up, and now we're going into the last leg of this battle with only 47 health. We do still have Shadow Ball, it just thinks that Generation 3 is the worst when it comes to Ghost type moves. For some stupid reason they made that type physical instead of special. Since we have a pretty pitiful physical attack stat, I'm not surprised that Shadow Ball is not a one shot. Saving grace here is that it's double effective against Gardevoir, but hey, the big picture is we're about even when it comes to health. Gardevoir uses a double team though, so that could be potentially problematic. That and Wally using another super potion here doesn't help either. Of course Shadow Ball would miss on the next turn, but it doesn't on the one after, and look, that was a critical hit. Finally, we don't have any obstacles blocking us from the Elite Four. Clearly, I don't think we're ready for this portion of the game, so I decided to do some more grinding in Victory Road before we truly jump into these battles. But before we do that, let's take a look at how we're shaping up at level 70. The big plus here is our special attack, and man, I do love that special attack. Special defense and speed are also looking good. Our HP is solid, especially when you consider what we're working with. Sure, it could be better, but what can you do? Our kryptonite is obviously our physical stats. They're nowhere near triple digits, and I have a feeling that that's what's going to spell our doom in most of these upcoming battles. I know I say this in a lot of challenges, but this one really does rely on us hitting hard with a special attack and praying for a one shot. If that doesn't happen, then we have to hope the opponent isn't sending a physical attack our way. Deep breath, and we're starting these series of battles with the hardest one first. Let's see what Sydney really looks like. First out is Mightyena, which of course means our attack is now lowered for the rest of the battle thanks to Intimidate. Now I know what some of you are thinking right now. You're thinking, REDyTay, Kevy B is definitely a special attacker. And you're absolutely right, random YouTube watcher, but this battle is one of those instances where we really need to rely on one of our physical attacks we've kept around. We just don't want to use it right now. For now, our best option is Shockwave against Mightyena. Its crunch hits hard, which we expected, but honestly I was expecting more considering that was technically a critical hit. The good news is Mightyena goes down after a second Shockwave. To me, that means we're off to a decent start. Cacturn is next, and this is where that lowered attack stat becomes a thorn in our side. Bounce is an extremely valuable move, since it could make short work of two of Sydney's team members as long as it doesn't miss. And our attack stat isn't too hampered. But since both of those issues are very much on the table in this battle, it's no surprise that we get hit by Cacturn's Con Spore, which drops our speed. It only takes one of those to make Cacturn faster than us. Feint Attack is scary here, and things are looking rough already. We do manage to land Bounce, and the damage output is decent, but Cacturn is still standing just long enough to finish us with Feint Attack. So in case you weren't keeping score, that means we can only take down one member of Sydney's team at our current level. Well, actually, on the second attempt we do manage to knock out Cacturn, but that win hinges completely on Bounce not missing. It still takes two of them to finish the job, and we still had our speed stat obliterated by Cotton Spore in the process. But hey, progress is progress. Next up is Absol. Shockwave takes it a little bit below half health, its berry kicks in, bringing it back to the green, and then it responds with Slash, and honestly, it doesn't look too scary. We get it back down to red health with another Shockwave, but that just cues the full restore. Still, we keep chipping away with Shockwave, and even though it doesn't feel like much, I'm thankful for the healing we are getting from the Shell Bell. Yeah, Absol's second Slash brings us into the red, but that little bit of HP recovery from our held item is what's allowing us to hang on. And hey, shout out to critical hits, although I'm not 100% sure we needed it to take down Absol. Then comes Sharpedo. Shockwave should be perfect here. I say should, because Sharpedo outspeeds us and its Slash takes us out really quick. So at first I was resetting this battle over and over again, but after the third attempt it dawned on me, maybe we should just accept these losses and keep rebattling Sydney after each whiteout. We can hold on to the experience we gain that way, and hey, this is endgame, I'm not exactly worried about money at this point. So yes, progress is being made, but it's long, drawn out and tedious, and it's stacking up in really small bite-sized increments. Sydney's team is rough. Most of it is either immune to Psychic, resist Shadow Ball, or throws in some other random nonsense that just makes things worse. Mantine lowers our attack with Intimidate, our accuracy with Sand Attack, Cacturn slows us down with Conspore and can Leech Seed us, and then there's Swagger, which can confuse us, always a fun time. That said, for once I'm glad that Dark type is a special type in this generation. The Dark type moves we're seeing aren't hitting nearly as hard as I thought they would, and that's all thanks to Kevby B's amazing special defense. But even with that silver lining, we are nowhere near a win here. I gave this battle so many attempts, so many, and I had some of the most crushing defeats I've ever experienced in any of my challenges I've done for this channel. Eventually, you just have to break the emergency glass and pull out the failsafe. We've collected a lot of rare candies on our way to Elite 4, and now it's time to use them. Level 78 now, and things are looking much better. Still not a complete sweep, but we can take hits better. And we take Cacturn out before it trashes our speed. When that happens, we're actually faster than Sharpedo and we can one-shot it easily. But then there's Shiftry, and we're still losing. It's all because of this guy. And the way we're losing, it's the stupidest way possible. The original plan was to use Bounce on Shiftry just like we did with Cacturn, but Shiftry loves using Double Team, and Bounce already misses a lot on its own, so the odds of landing it after multiple evasions, it's not good. Shockwave becomes our go-to option because it can't miss, but we end up spamming it over and over, getting Shiftry down to red health, only for Sydney to full restore and reset everything. Again and again. Now if you're watching the footage, you're probably wondering what Shiftry is doing during all this time that's wrecking us so badly. That's the dumb part, it's Swagger. We keep getting confused, and we keep hitting ourselves in confusion. That's it. That's the whole story. We're not even getting taken out by moves really. We're just bonking ourselves into oblivion. This might be the worst start we've had against the Elite Four, and considering how often we've seen Lorelei, that's really saying something. Okay, I've had enough though. 2 more rare candies, Kevby B is now sitting pretty at level 80. Shockwave now hits Mighty Anna harder than it did 10 levels ago. Its crunch only takes off about 1/5 of our HP, so yeah, we're looking good. Another Shockwave and we move on to Sydney's next Pokemon. Cacturn still manages to survive Bounce, but this might be the pivotal moment of the battle. Its Conspore misses. It gets a full restore, which is annoying, but we land another Bounce to finally take it down. Absol's up next. Shockwave is still solid here. Even with its berry, it can't handle 2 attacks from us. Then comes Sharpedo. That's still a one-shot. We're at full health and we're heading into Shiftry again. Despite everything, I'm still giving Bounce a shot, even with double team in play. And hey, look at that, it hits. Oh, and it actually paralyzes. Wow, we are getting great paralysis luck. Bounce does miss next turn, so let's not get too cocky, but with our 3rd attempt of using Bounce, we hit Shiftry, and that's with another double team tacked on. And with that, we finally did it. We finally beat Sydney. I might not sound extremely excited, but trust me, I'm really happy we finally got that win. It's just that we still have to get past Phoebe, and this battle can be a serious challenge. That said, we've added a lot of levels to Kevby B, so maybe this huge level lead will carry us through and help make this battle a little easier than expected. The good news, we've actually got a great move for almost her entire team, Shadow Ball. That's a luxury we definitely didn't have against Sydney, but of course there are still problems. Confusion and poison status conditions are prevalent in this battle. Funny enough, I was really worried about getting burned from Will-O-Wisp, but we actually don't see it much. Toxic though? Yeah, that one shows up constantly. I gave the battle one solid attempt with that status condition hanging over our heads, and yeah, we lost. Badly. Basically, if we get hit with Toxic or a Curse, I just call it quits and we restart the fight immediately. And if you thought we racked up a lot of failed attempts against Sydney, double that footage, and that's about how much time I sunk into trying to beat Phoebe. Most of these losses come at the hands of her second Dusclops, so yeah, something's gotta change. Which is frustrating because we really don't have many options other than grinding at the moment. So we give it multiple attempts at level 85. Things look better, but we're still falling short for the win. And after so many crushing defeats, even my pride is waving a white flag. I knew we had to keep leveling up. At level 88, more losses. We are 40 levels higher than our opening Dusclops, and it still doesn't go down in one hit unless we get lucky with a crit. Shadow Ball one-shots her bayonets, but they don't have the same defense as Dusclops. Okay, so one bayonet down, two bayonets down. That's 60% of Phoebe's team cleared, and we are still at full health. That's promising. But the second Dusclops, still not a one-shot. Thankfully, it chooses Confuse Ray over Curse. I'll take it, even if we do smack ourselves on the next turn. Still, we snap out Confusion quickly, that's super clutch, and we take it down with Shadow Ball. Now we're on to Sableye. Shadow Ball won't help us here, so we switch to Shockwave. Both of us end up in the yellow, and I gotta say I'm grateful we're at such a high level now. Our defense is finally sturdy enough to help us tank one of its Shadow Balls. That gives us just enough time to fire off one more Shockwave to finally get the win. The Leaf 4 is steamrolling us in this challenge. We needed 18 extra levels just to beat the first two members. Yes, Spoink really is that weak. But this also highlights something else. Generation 3 is when Game Freak finally figured out how to level the playing field. The addition of more balanced and threatening Dark and Ghost types really reins in Psychic types in a way we hadn't seen before. And honestly, we're finally going to see what happens when we can use Psychic without resistance. The battling Glacia? That was nothing. There's basically nothing to say. We're so high leveled at this point that we just spam Psychic and our whole team melts. I guess we'll never get to see what Thick Fat looks like in action, but hey, I'm going to take this easy win. So that was a really easy fight, but was that just a fluke, or do we think Drake will be just as easy thanks to our Psychic and level lead? Yeah, battling Drake was uneventful too. One of his Flygons did hang on for a bit with a crunch, but we stayed safe and sound the whole fight. And I have to say, I'm so grateful these last two battles were smooth sailing. After how draining the first two Elite Four battles were, this gave us a second win heading into the final fight. Because now we have to face Steven. This fight, it's going to be a real challenge. First, Steel types resist Sidekick moves, and secondly, Metagross. Yeah, that guy gets his own bullet point. Thankfully, Skarmory is an easy win with Shockwave, Cordeli survives a Sidekick, Ancient Power doesn't hit too hard, and even though Steven uses a full restore, we bring Cordeli right back down with another Sidekick. One Shockwave finishes it off. Claydol's next. Shadow Ball is the play here. It's not a one shot, and we do take an Earthquake, but Shadow Ball deals just enough damage that Steven doesn't heal, so another one finishes it. Aggron's up, and Shadow Ball is a no-go. Back to Shockwave. Two of them get the job done, and we take another Earthquake, but we're still standing. Armaldo second to last, and Psychic finally gets another one-shot. That just leaves Metagross. We're still in the green, level 90, feeling good, using Shadow Ball, lands a critical hit, but it doesn't do much damage, and that's not a good sign. We barely survived Metagross's Meteor Mash, and with how things are going, it's clear. You don't hit hard enough to finish Metagross before it finishes us. So back to grinding. Which means we're back to Victory Road, and we have our team of Zigzagoons with us. They help dig up a few more rare candies to help speed up the process. It's late, I have to work in the morning, so every bit helps. But we don't jump straight to level 100 with this grind session. I still want to see if we can beat this challenge and not be max leveled. At level 98, we try again. Skarmory, still not a threat. Shockwave takes care of it. Cordeli goes down on one Sidekick now. Huge improvement. Claydol? Well, Shadow Ball doesn't one-shot, but this time it opens with Earthquake instead of Light Screen. That's a win for us because no Light Screen means Aggron doesn't get that extra buffer and our Shockwave does way more damage. Aggron goes down, but not before it hits us with another Earthquake. Armaldo, one-shot with Sidekick. Again, no Light Screen makes all the difference. And then it's time for Metagross. We open with Shockwave and it lands as a huge critical hit, but still not enough for a knockout. And of course Metagross eats a berry and heals back to the yellow. We're still healthy enough to tank one Meteor Mash, And Steven doesn't use a full restore, which means Shockwave lands again, and that's actually it. We win. We are officially Pokemon champions. This was actually our second attempt at level 98, but the point still stands. We actually did it. This is one of those challenges that feels truly rewarding to complete. Spoink really only has the Psychic typing going for it. That move pool wasn't terrible. I mean, it eventually got better, but we started with Splash, so yeah, that beginning was rough. Its physical stats were a major drag the whole way through, and I don't want to imagine what this would have been like if Spoink wasn't a Psychic type. The first half of the Elite Four was brutal, but I do like a challenge, and in the end, we still came out on top. If you like this challenge, I hope you'll stick around, because next up, we're heading back to Generation 2 to find out if you can beat Pokemon Gold with a Heracross. This one's going to be a total 180 from Spoink. We're going full physical attacker, and I already love how different it feels. I'm also playing through Pokemon Yellow to celebrate the game's 25th anniversary release in the United States. If you got memories of that game, I'd love to hear them in the comments. In the meantime, feel free to check out some of my other challenges. And don't forget to like and subscribe for updates, leave a comment letting me know what you enjoyed and what challenges you'd want to see next, or how I can make these videos better. Thanks for watching, until next time, Geronimo.